Leg Kick Podcast. I'm your host, David, here with two fine gentlemen, seasoned. I think we can use the word seasoned Muay Thai practitioners for both of you. Uh, we have Jeremy Bone Crusher. Can that actually be your nickname, Jeremy Bone Crusher or Asiffo?
I don't mind it.
I like it. I think it's apt. And Michael Mayhem? I don't know. What's your nickname, Michael?
I don't have one anymore. I don't even care. I'll just go like with just my name, and that's it.
Michael, mass appeal, Asiffo.
Mass appeal.
Yes. And defector, people pleaser. And sure, Michael. We're also joined by Stefano somewhere in Narnia.
Man, we should bring back the chair. Where's the Stefano chair? You guys remember?
Literally, a Stefano chair, or just have like a random, just like white box. To represent Stefano's appeal. Stefano's attempts to white out our conversation. We see you, Stefano.
It's like, Stefano, what do you think? Steph?
Hilarious. You know what we should do? Just say like, Stefano, what do you think? And just like play a Luke Thomas video.
Wait, what video?
A Luke Thomas video. Literally, just play like a professor giving a lecture, something like that. Input.
That's funny.
Okay,
That's funny.
So first of all, before we jump in, because there's no Stefano here, how are you guys doing, man? How's everything going on in the Asiffo household? Pretend like we didn't just have 40 minutes of pre-show banter.
Yeah,
things
we just talked
are
about it.
Yeah.
I had my first fight, so I can officially call myself a fighter, I guess. And it was good.
Seasoned. The trick is you do what, I can't remember his name, but you do what like guys do for the Ultimate Fighter, and you say you lie, just like double the number. So if you've had like,
yeah, I'm filling out my application for the Ultimate Fighter right now.
You should. Honestly, you might have more experience than some of the guys on that show.
I remember I was watching the Ultimate Fighter, and this guy got his black belt in like 2 weeks.
Yes.
Well,
I can't remember
Holloway or something.
I don't even remember his name. I just remember the guys were roasting him.
Talking about. Yeah, literally, and the guys are like, yeah, I think he got his black belt when a guy walked from the UPS truck to him. That was his black belt ceremony. I found hilarious.
Shout out to the 2 week black belters.
I feel that.
They're paving the way.
I keep saying, but you come here to the UK, I don't know. They're at least giving you at least like a blue belt for sure. Like regardless of how like
Regardless of training.
Strength.
It's like you pass a guard. Oh my god!
I've never seen that before. Sexy.
A knee cut pass. Whoa! What is this sorcery? I shouldn't be good.
Yeah, I see it. Okay, cool. Do you want to tell people how it went? What are some takeaways? I know we've already done like a little bit of.
I mean, like we already talked about it, so like I don't really want to feel like going over it, but I'll just say like to the audience that like if you're a first-time fighter, you want to go in there and you want to dominate your opponent and this, that, and the third. But like I just like after thinking about it, you just take the experience for what it is and the fact that you got to learn and you got to walk away with things that you can improve on. And I feel like that's the most important thing. Like, because if you go in there and dominate, you'll feel like, oh, you don't really have too much to learn. But like when you get into a high pressure situation and you see how you act in that like high anxiety environment, it's like the great Teddy Atlas says, it's the biggest truth teller. Like you learn the truth about yourself. And I learned a lot of truth about myself. So it was good. And shout out to my opponent, Brady Benoit. He's a really classy guy. And he really it was really a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun. And and gave me a lot to learn. So
anime fan too, by the way. Huge anime fan, that Brady kid, because we were messaging back and forth. He was messaging me about Naruto and stuff. So
He black?
Huh? Nah, he's a white dude.
Vanilla Gorilla.
What does it look like in the anime? I don't get it.
Hey, Nat Wonder Girl likes anime too. So shout out to former guest of the show. I guess can we call her friend of the show? Nat Wonder Girl.
She's a friend for life.
Yeah, she's a friend. So Nat Wonder Girl likes anime too. So it's already taking over the nation. David, you gotta get in the know. It's on you.
And I've been like literally. There was one time I was like rolling with some dudes at the MMA Society, and like literally just like mid convo, this guy's like, "Do you like anime? Do you watch anime?" I'm like, "Buddy, like now is not the time to like." And it wasn't even the guy that I was rolling with. It was some guy next to me, like he was rolling with somebody else, and then like had like a conversation. Oh, Naruto! I'm like, you guys, man, grow up. No longer 10. Not allowed to watch cartoons anymore.
Whoa.
Unpopular opinion. I'm just saying, like they make it for 10-year-olds, but hey, whatever. Jeremy, what is the biggest takeaway? No, I've already asked that question. What is the biggest misconception of from being a non-fighter to a fighter?
That is a good question.
Like, what's something you thought? I know you said you would dominate, but what's something that unless you fought, like you will not have an appreciation for?
Oh, I would say if you didn't fight, you wouldn't have an appreciation for how hard it is to think and throw the right punches, if that makes sense. Like when you see these guys like Devin Haney, duck a punch and then throw a cross hook, you think it's easy. But then like when somebody actually is throwing a punch at you at full speed, you may duck, but you may not remember to throw that hook or that cross. So it's like to throw efficient punches. That's something you might not have appreciation for if you haven't been in the ring. Or so
I get that. And Michael, you can jump in, but sometimes I'm like, okay, like I know like the counter to this, or I know like how to throw this combo in like series, but for some reason when you get in there, it's kind of like, okay, no, I just need to like inflict damage and not get damaged.
Mm-hmm.
I think part of it is when you have another trained killer in front of you who is also looking to inflict damage, you get anxious and you want to throw something as hard as possible to get them away from you, right? And not realizing that what tends to break people is multiple shots. You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't necessarily say do the Nate Diaz death by 1,000 paper cuts, but what I would say is, I don't think people really understand it when another human being who also is trying to kill you, well, kill, I use in quotation marks, but they're trying to get after it. There is that anxiousness to try to end it all or try to back them up, right? And even when you're willing and able, right, there are things that just kind of get messed up and lost in the sauce there. So I'm glad that that was said.
I feel. Wait, hold on. So first of all, you mean it's not like the movies where you just land like the flush punch and the guy just like melts away? Like you mean you actually have to like set it up, follow it up, like
right.
Okay. Then I was just gonna say, like, I have the exact in my one non-sanctioned bouts. I had the opposite problem. I felt like it was too calm, and I felt like it was pretty much still like a sparring situation. So I'm wondering if I get into like a stage context where like everybody's watching and all that kind of stuff, if I'll have like the same. The way I see it, like I still have pretty much had like zero fights because like I don't know, like I didn't get that anxiety. Like I just felt like a little bit too calm. And looking back, I feel like I could be more active. And as you said, Jeremy, make better reads, and all that kind of stuff. I feel like I wasn't, and also because I knew the guy, like I really wasn't trying to give him like brain damage either. Like I was like, okay, let me set up these low kicks and that kind of stuff. So I don't know.
Hey, Well,
Okay.
yeah, I'm proud of both of you guys. You guys got a fight situation, whatever you guys want to call it, under your belt. I thought you both were in fights. In my opinion, you both were in fights, and you both performed admirably and performed well, and represented the leg kick really well, guys. So here,
Yeah,
here,
you know
yeah.
what? We'll just say what all black people say to each other every time they see somebody do well. Man, I'm just trying to be like you, man. Yo, it's your. I'm just living in it. You know?
It's so.
I'm trying to get like you, fam. Like, yeah.
Like,
all right, that's enough touch butt for today. We can move on to. Can I just say that's one of my favorite quotes of all time? That Nate Diaz. It's like, who have you fought, man? You've been playing touch butt in the park
with that the guy with the ponytail, with that midget in the ponytail, and I ain't got no sparring partners. Yeah,
I love Nate Diaz. Okay, do you want to jump into some of the topics we got today, Mike?
yeah, for sure, for sure. Do we have a graphic? Do we go to this graphic?
Let's
Is
go
there
to MMA news segment.
transition?
Let's get into the news and views of the week.
All right, boys. So because there's no fights per se for yesterday. There was no fights yesterday. There's fights next week.
Fights.
Other than Jeremy's fight, it was a banger.
Which totally didn't happen in Ontario with its strict lockdown. You
guys
went to America and you just flew back in this morning because no respectful gym would be holding unsanctioned fights.
Exactly. There was no fighting in Canada of any sort.
You know what it was? It was a mental fight. Like they put like VR headsets and you just like were pretending.
You know what? Have you guys been seeing some of these videos on Instagram and Facebook or wherever on Twitter of the VR and people hurt themselves?
I see the person fighting. I'm just like, wait, what game is this? Like,
what's funny?
Know how to throw a punch for this to be like work, or like why are you doing like weird like doing that? I don't know.
Man, you'll be seeing some people who this is the thing about like games like VR and whatever is life is whatever you want to make it with VR. If you're like, I remember playing, what was it, Wii Baseball, for example, and I was throwing and they were throwing, you're throwing pitches and whatever, and I'm facing my sister. And my sister is throwing pitches like this. She's batting like this. You know what I'm saying? And I'm out here getting my Randy Johnson on. Like, I'm battling for my life.
You're like Barry Bonds.
I'm out here doing the leg kick and everything. No pun intended. But I'm out here doing like, a leg kick and I'm looking at the sky and everything.
Arching back and stuff. Like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah. Man, so with the boxing game, you can tell like people like life is what you make it. Some people are doing one of these. Some people are like a friend of mine, Jensen Cook, who also was at this American boxing match, American fight with Jeremy and his opponent. He was doing the virtual reality boxing, and he's just out here doing the Philly shell and jabbing.
We have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask questions about that. Okay, but other than this American exhibition event that happened on an Indian burial ground, what are some MMA news that happened this past week?
All right,
because we haven't had a show in a while.
Yeah, so let's get through like the less more pressing stuff, and then we'll get to the big ones, or I guess in my opinion the big ones. First order of news, I know this one would kind of pique your interest for sure, David, just kind of speaking on social issues or kind of things of this nature. Radek Rusal has been banned from the Czech organization Octagon MMA for having an SS tattoo. For those who are not as well versed in history as my co-host here, the SS tattoo is was kind of the, I guess you would say, was the regiment for the Nazi Party when they would go to battle, or what would you call it? The point is, it's a Nazi symbol, but and it's in relation to Army, but I don't know what you would call like the division, I guess would be called, right?
Yeah,
But
I don't want to look it up on Google. I'm not going to pretend to be like an expert on this. I don't want to look it up because the police are at my door. But
yeah,
it's
I do
basically
know the full name. I just don't know like what you would call like. Is it like I would say? Is it like Marines? Is it like the
it's
U.S.
like an
Army kind
insignia
of thing?
that
Yeah,
represents the Nazi military essentially.
exactly.
Party as a whole. But yeah, no, it's weird. My thoughts on it is, I guess, good. Duh, that's probably what they imagined when they did this. But I have two thoughts. First of all, ironically, isn't like Czech Republic known for its racism? Like, I'm pretty sure that's a thing. So it's interesting they've taken this stance. And number two, let's not pretend like MMA is not shady characters with like terrible tattoos. So
See, I'm glad you brought this up because, well, I think I'm happy for organizations like even for as much as Habib has been making a I wouldn't necessarily say an ass of himself, but his stirred a lot of controversy for some of the comments he's made in regards to women fighting and ring girls and stuff of that nature. He came out and had a really classy post about Muhammad Ali and the idea of dealing with racism and that affecting the mindset of a fight, and he wouldn't know if he would be able to deal with that and how disgusting that was. So, I'm the more and more, every once in a while you get hope, these little nuggets of hope that people do understand and they're doing the right things when it comes to these, when it comes to issues that do revolve around racism. We're not there yet by a long shot, of course not, but I am kind of happy, and I do want to give that Czech organization some credit there. But the other thing, and just to kind of piggyback on that point, is there's a lot of MMA fighters that have either been alleged and nothing's really come out to defend or prove their innocence, have been alleged of awful things, or have been found guilty of some awful things outright and have still maintained a career and fan base in MMA. So, is this one bad? Yeah. Is this one one thing where I'm very disappointed and saddened? Yeah, but I think a bigger conversation needs to be had maybe at some other juncture of this podcast. I would love to have it of the state of kind of personality in MMA, and there's lots of examples you can point to of people saying and doing awful things in regards to racism or other pressing issues. So that's kind of my like initial thoughts on it.
I just think, while I do agree with that, we don't want MMA and martial arts in general to be sanitized, right? We don't want it to be where you kind of have to fit into a mold like the NBA. Although I'm finding everybody making fun of Kyrie Irving very, very funny. I am personally enjoying that one. So I get it. But at the same time, like, you want a range of personalities. And MMA is one of those sports where your thoughts to a certain degree or your opinions or your political beliefs like kind of don't matter. Like when it comes down to it, it's just like two mortals scrapping. So, do you have to be the most politically correct person to be a fighter? I don't believe that at all. In fact,
No, I'm not saying politically correct, but there is a line of which, I think the line is not having Nazi memorabilia on your body,
That's a pretty low bar. I mean, and the funny part, so what if the guy just like covers it up? Does that mean he can now be in the organization? Like, what if he puts like an A in front of like the two S's? Like, does that make it okay, or like was it an actual? Like,
I don't know what the course of action for that gentleman would be, because it is a tattoo, right? Like if you remove it, there is kind of
you just like tattoo like a black box, like tattoo a black box around it, and then just like shade it in, and then just as a tattoo of a black box. But we're overthinking. Jeremy, do you?
No, I yeah, no, for sure. Let's see.
Because usually people, when they get tattoos, they do it because it means something to them. So
If you're getting a Nazi symbol,
that means it kind of means something to you. But yeah, you have a range of personalities, so I guess it shouldn't matter what your beliefs are. It should matter, you know, your ability in the ring. But just don't be like out here spewing hate, racist rhetoric.
Yeah,
and I won't have a problem with you.
But even racist rhetoric, there's like a spectrum, right? Like you know, there have been guys who've said some things that you're like, you know,
looking at you.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's and you know, of course, like, look, is that one of those things where like you'd give a person side eye? Yeah, but is it one of those things where you'd ban someone from an organization? No, right? And then there's the SS on your body, right? There's
the organization doesn't want to promote that, which is fair enough. And also, just to quickly rebut something that Jeremy said, not that what he said is wrong, but if you guys have watched, anybody, not you guys, but anybody in the world has watched that terrible show called Justified. It's basically a show where a cop always has like a reasonable grounds to like murder somebody. That's like his whole thing. He's like a U.S. Marshal, and he just like kills like a criminal every single episode, and it's justified. It's actually hilarious now that you know, police violence is more known. But in that show, one of the main actors, I can't remember his name. I think it's like Wayne Boggins or something. Really popular actor, but he plays this character who was like previously part of like, you know, a jail gang that was racist. So he got the Nazi words tattooed on him, and everywhere he goes, he gets like and since then he's had like what's the word? He's repented. He's like a strong believer in Christ, all that kind of stuff. You know, he no longer believes that, no longer is in the gang, has totally moved on. But because he has that tattoo, he's constantly like archetyped or stereotyped as like this Nazi member. So I don't know. I thought like it raised a decent point. Is like, at what point do you start judging people, you know, based on first experiences? If you were a racist, can you no longer be a racist? And if you have a tattoo that, you know, meant something to you at the time, and you choose to like keep it now, not as, you know, a celebration of it, but as reminding yourself like what you went through, and reminding yourself, you know, of the dark place that you were in, then is that enough grounds for somebody to once again stereotype you? And I'm not saying that that's what happened here, but I don't know, just an interesting point I thought.
No, it
no, I don't mind working.
Sorry, go ahead, Jeremy.
I don't mind working, like being on a team or being in the same organization as a racist person. Just, you know, as long as they don't, as long as the company doesn't believe in that. Like, if I was on the same team as John Gruden, I wouldn't mind if like he was racist. You know what I mean?
Oh, David, you're on.
I was saying, no, love how we said we're not going to spend a long time on this, and yet we're spending a long time.
Hey, man, like the whole thing. I knew you guys were going to spend it forever.
Isn't that a whole thing that just happened in football? I think it was like Ohio.
It was a couple months ago, a few months ago.
Yeah, where basically, but I was recently on Twitter, and this guy comes out and blasts everybody, you know, blasts the former coach, saying like was super racist.
So Antonio Brown had for Buccaneers, I think you're referring to.
No, it's college football for sure. It's college football.
It was college for sure. But even John Gruden had his issues. John Gruden had that issue. But you know, I think it's very important to have these bigger conversations in sport. And it's like, you know, thinking about that kind of. At what point are you beyond redemption where, you know, you're banned from an organization or you're fired and blacklisted from, you know, a league, or, you know, you're no longer accepted in a space? Like, where is the line where you're like, okay, you are beyond redemption? And, you know, there's obvious things where, you know, in our minds, people are beyond reproach. And then there's obvious things where people have, like, you know, if they learn and they do the necessary steps and are remorseful, they can come back. There's obvious, you know, things on either end. But then there's things that approach the line, that are in that gray. And you know, you guys get what I'm trying to say here? Like, what is acceptable? Where it's like it's unacceptable, but you know.
Yeah, we should definitely move on, but I really don't think there's a line. I think the line, like there's a firm line. I think like it changes over time. That's just be honest.
Fair
What's
enough.
acceptable today will not be acceptable in the future. That's just
yeah. And conversely, like just the line changes, right? Yeah. So, all right. Next one. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
This one is an habitual line stepper, but go on.
Yeah. Next, you know, talking about habitual line steppers. Mike Perry, after coming off of a couple impressive wins, you know, one in bare knuckle and one in triad combat, I believe, he's going to be having another fight. And gentlemen, it's a person we all know very well. You know, it's a guy by the name of Julian Lane. Now, for those who don't know that name, you might know him by his moniker. Let me bang, bro. Let me
bang, bro. I really don't have any thoughts at all on this fight. I just wanted to say that, I just wanted the opportunity to talk about just let me bang, bro. Why won't you let me bang? I do let you bang. I do let you bang. KFC is letting me bang against another banger, Mike Perry. I'm surprised Mike Perry wasn't the Ultimate Fighter, truth be told.
The best part is, the most underrated part is not the let me bang, bro. Why won't you let me bang? And it got to a weird spot too.
He had tears in his eyes when he was like, why won't you let me bang, bro?
Like he's like that's the part that always gets me, is like at first he's like upset and then it turns into like almost like a therapy session. I'm like, why won't you let me bang, bro? And then the dude and the best part is the homie holding them back. I do let you bang, bro.
Let you bang. We all need a friend who lets us bang. You know what I mean? Like that guy. We joke, that guy is a legend. That was so funny. My God. Has given us so many, as well as champions. It's given us so many classic meme-worthy MMA moments as well. So,
I'm so lost.
Oh my God.
So this guy is in a house. You know, the whole premise of the Ultimate Fighter is that there's a bunch of fighters living in a house. And I can't even remember what the guy does. Like, basically, I think he's just super drunk, talking trash to a black guy whose name I've completely forgotten. So that shows you just how the Ultimate Fighter works. Like, you're known not necessarily for your fighting skills, but if you have like something noteworthy in terms of outside of the ring. And essentially he gets so mad. You know, I think at one point like he like punches a door or like headbutts a door or something like that. Just starts like losing it, and as he's losing it, he's trying to get to the other guy, and he's just like, oh man, just let me bang, bro, let me bang, because like he wants to fight the guy. And eventually he starts off like super angry, like literally like raging, and then he just instantly switches to like sad, like emotional, like bro, but why won't you let me bang? Like, why won't you let me bang? And then the other guy, this is going to make for a terrible podcast, but the other guy who's Canadian, I've forgotten his name. Again, just goes to show that the show is really not about
it's not about fighting. Yeah. At least early Ultimate Fighter wasn't about it. But yeah, other dude goes, I do let you bang, bro. I do. Like just in like the most like supportive voice,
like in the most Canadian voice possible. He's like, I do let you bang, bro. I do.
Like it's almost like they were speaking another language. Like it was like, I understand you, bro.
Please show Jeremy. Yeah, no, literally, it was, I do understand you. Calm down. Don't worry, you're safe. That kind of stuff. But he was basically just saying, I do let you bang, bro. It's like the most emotional language fighters can use. Michael, you have to show that video to Jeremy.
Dude, I'm gonna pull up and I'm gonna put it in the group chat. I'm gonna put it in the group chat.
It was like, imagine a child throwing like a temper tantrum. And
right. It sounds like a child.
Like literally, that's exactly what it was. Okay, we spent enough time on this topic. Let's move on.
All right. let me bang, bro. I do.
Shout out to Andy Wang as well.
Oh my god. Yeah. They'll say I'm a warrior. BJ Penn. Shut up, man.
You gotta send that to Jeremy. He's gonna be lost.
Oh my god.
All right. Okay. We gotta move on.
Okay. Oh my god. No, I'm sorry. I can't. Let me bang, bro.
All right. This is a terrible podcast.
Okay. This is good. Man. All right. So, let's go on to things that are like actually about MMA and kind of pressing. Jan versus Sterling 2 has finally had a date, and I don't remember the date, but I do remember the event. It's going to be UFC 272. And yeah, we're going to talk about like my initial thoughts on it. I'll say my initial thoughts, but boys, what say you first? And
I'm torn. I like Jan's fighting skill. I don't know if we will be back in real life. Unlike Aljamain Sterling, who is not only my brethren in blackness, but also seems like a cool guy. I remember he did like a guest spot on Morning Combat, and that was like probably the best guest spot they've ever done. Because he's actually really knowledgeable about MMA, and actually like a pretty chill dude, and definitely.
I remember there was one episode like way back. There was an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience that is like one of the more underrated episodes that Aljo. It was Aljo who was on, right? And this is before Aljo was like, the champ, like even like contender status, kind of in a way, because I think it was like a couple fights removed, either before, a couple fights after the Marlon Moraes knockout, and he was about as cool and about as fun as a guest that Joe Rogan has had on the show, period.
I believe it, man. I just think like it's weird like how the MMA community is so fickle. That's what I've learned. And not like I'm part of the community, but just like watching from afar, just seeing people just like discount fighters for like the most arbitrary thing. Like nobody argues whether in the first fight Jan kneed Aljo in the face, because he did. Like the tape is there, you can't lie. I think people are, the fact that he won the championship off of that is, ridiculous, and the fact he took a photo after it, but people don't know the context behind that photo. People don't know how Sterling really feels. I just found it like kind of distasteful, in my opinion. And the fact is, the rules state if you're the champion, foul, and you lose the title as a result. Sorry, you lose the match as a result. You are no longer the champion. Now, should that belt have been kind of held in limbo while they did a rematch or something? Sure. But the fact is, like, Sterling really got hurt with that knee. I mean, it was as flush a knee as possible. And yeah, I just thought it was weird that people were mad about that personally. So
awesome.
I was gonna say, so for this rematch, my heart is saying Sterling, but at the same time, we're seeing Jan come off like one of the most incredible performances. I think I gave that one even my like fight of the year, if I'm not mistaken, or somebody did.
Yeah, sorry about that, boys. I kind of crashed on that, but I think I get the gist of what you're saying. So go ahead if you.
No, just saying that, my heart is saying Aljo just because I like him as a person. But Jan, he just has a more complete set of skills, in my opinion. Although we've really never seen him tested on the ground too much, mostly because nobody can actually get him, like take him down, which is
yeah.
Right. But yeah, I was saying Jan had a great performance against Sandhagen. So we've seen like he really poses a lot of big problems for Aljo, who is not terrible standing up. Those first rounds were kind of close, but once Jan has you figured out, like, and we actually talked about this, or Jeremy kind of talked about this in terms of, it's one thing to like think, like watch it from afar and see what the other fighters should be doing. It's another thing while you're in the ring to like develop a game plan almost on the fly to like nullify your opponent's weapons. and I feel like Yan has to be. I can't think of too many people like that. Maybe, yeah, I can't even think of too many people like that.
One of the best in fight adjusters since.
Impossible.
I think period.
Yeah,
I was gonna say since Rashad Evans, but that's not even like right.
Yeah, and I feel like he does it to the point where the other person doesn't have an answer, because not only is he like nullifying your weapons, he's then pouring his offense on, and this guy's like a Tiger Muay Thai guy, so like his striking is legit. Super fast switch hitter. Like I mean, he's crazy. Like
in shape too. Like he's never not in shape.
To like you're not gonna like rock him, and it's almost like he can take he can take your best shot and slowly figure out, not slowly, just figure out how to get you to stop throwing your best stuff too. So I don't know, it should be an interesting one.
But the one thing that does give me I guess give me pause to get I mean, I am pretty much anointing on the UFC champion, to be honest, but I, as much as I do like Aljo, I gotta go with Jan initially. But the one thing that does give me pause to just say, oh, this is gonna be a complete walkover, 100%. Besides obviously the puncher's chance, and you never know, is Sterling is clearly, if not the best, one of the best grapplers in this division. Submitted Corey Sandhagen in a minute, so. Yeah, people forget that.
He's Sterling. Yeah, okay, yeah, no, he is one of the best grapplers.
Right now, Corey Sandhagen has definitely become a better grappler since. You know what I'm saying? But Aljo is a comprehensive grappler, and Peter Yan, you can tell there's a little bit of Sonda influence. There's a little bit of he definitely knows how to defend a takedown, and he can grapple. Like, he's not terrible at it, but if he's forced to have a prolonged grappling or prolonged jiu-jitsu exchange while Aljo is fresh, I wonder, just how much he can defend, a submission attempt from Aljo for a prolonged period of time. And so that's one thing I would say for people who are kind of writing off Aljo or are looking for something where this fight can be competitive. I think that's an area you can look at right there. From a fights perspective. I think from a personality perspective, and you're right, MMA fans are fickle, but I think you have to understand that even within the hardcore, there's the UFC fandom is icebergs, it's icebergs, and then there's other icebergs right in the same atmosphere, and I don't think every fan is fickle or every fan hates Aljo with a passion. But I do think people who don't get it, or people who don't have, who don't understand how this works, are going to tend to put their own kind of honor code and honor system in there, and not understand anything on this. But for me, where it got ridiculous was when Aljo pulled out for a neck because of the neck injury. I think, at first it's okay, I get it. People are people, you say what you have to say on these things, but people are people. But I think pulling out because of the neck injury, while also ignoring the fact that Peter Yan pulled out of their first fight the first time due to, and I quote, personal reasons, is ridiculous. But there's my thoughts. I'm going to leave it at that, and whatever, I'll bounce it back to you guys.
Regardless, this is going to be a good fight, and I'm excited for it. This is Peter Yan obviously wants the belt back, and Aljo is coming to prove that he's not just some email champion or whatever. I don't know what the term would be in this scenario, but
paper champion.
That's what you said.
Yeah, paper champion. Yeah.
Yeah, so just the emotions, the added.
It's 2021. It would be pure champion.
What?
It's great. Don't worry.
I didn't hear you, but I think the added emotional aspect of it will make this a good fight, not to mention the contrasting styles. So it's going to be a good fight, and I'm excited to see the rematch. And I noticed that about fight sports, the fact that we're dealing with individuals, when people, what people tend to use an honor system, or they bend the rules for certain fighters, but when it comes to a fighter they like, they completely ignore the context or the circumstances around something. So it's like it's weird because you don't see that a lot with other sports. When it comes to fight sports, people, if someone likes or dislikes a fighter, for any reason, they'll look for any reason to discredit that fighter.
I'll give you an example. Like Max Holloway, we don't even know what Max Holloway's injury is. You know what I'm saying? And everyone's already giving him a pass. And I'm not saying not to. That's not my point. But compared to a guy who had neck surgery, you know what I'm saying, and it's confirmed he had neck surgery and needed more time to recover from neck surgery, which, by the way, if something goes wrong with your neck, it's game over for your life. You know what I'm saying? Or at the very least, the quality of life to move your extremities. And all of a sudden, he's you know what? He's ducking, he's this, he's that. Meanwhile, during, and again, I say this again, during their first fight, it was scheduled and Jan pulled out due to, and I say this again, and we still don't even know what it was, personal reasons. He could have had a wedding. He could have been the best man at a wedding, which I'm not saying you shouldn't pull up for. That's not my point. But my point being is that MMA fans are very, very selective. A lot of MMA fans, at least, are very selective of when to give people passes.
Agreed, and I think that ties into our next topic. For basically at the same time that this fight was announced, Jan versus Sandhagen, we also had an announcement that we were going to get another rematch for Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway. I think it was pretty well-deserved rematch. I don't think there's really anything Holloway has to prove in that division to deserve a title shot. I know we're coming off two fights between them, which Volkanovski won both. So some people were always asking, what's the point of the rubber match? But Holloway put in a literally like statistical anomaly of a performance against Calvin Kattar, and then put in, probably some people call it, one of the fights of the year performances against, at least definitely performance of the year against Yair Rodriguez as well. So after those two fights, I think it was well-deserved, but I think it wasn't even 24 hours, and Max Holloway pulls out from an injury that he sustained. Now, my question is, do you think the UFC knew of this injury? Yeah. Because if so, why announce it? Like, or if you're not even sure if the fighter is healthy, or do you think like he literally got injured like the next morning training?
I think that's probably I would probably say my safe bet would be that he was training a morning session after the announcement of the fight and got hurt, and just talking from experience, like, generally, I don't know how it is when like it's for a championship bout and like there's another person that you're going to be facing, but generally we know when a fight's going to happen, unless it's like short notice or whatever, or certain extenuating circumstances. But we know when a fight's going to happen. I would say 3, 4, 5 days before the announcement. Like we're pretty, like it's not official, but you're pretty knocked down on like what's going to happen, what the deal is, right? For example, one of the few fights I didn't take on short notice, Olivier Rien, I knew that fight was happening a week before camp. You know what I'm saying? And it showed, right? Like I didn't look like I was too busy eating ho-hos and came in shape, right? So, right? So there could be something too that Max Holloway knew that the fight was going to happen. And when it finally got announced, maybe he re-aggravated an injury, or he was overworking an injury, or things could have happened. You know, so there is that. You know, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so fair enough. It happened, and Holloway can't fight. There's no amount of talking that we can do in this world to make that happen right now. So, um, we have two people who said that they want to follow up, so who want to replace him, and we haven't really received any word yet on what's going to happen with the fight. So we have, first of all, Josh Emmett, which is just hilarious because he barely won his last fight. No disrespect, because fighting is not easy, but like, I can't remember who he was up against.
I think it was Ige.
Yeah.
Was it Ige?
Yeah, that was a flip him. A lot of people thought Ige won that fight. Maybe even me. Like I wanted Emmett to win, but like I thought that Ige won that fight. And he like barely won. And then everybody else in the top 10 is pretty much coming off a loss or is already booked up. I think Giga is one of the fighters with. Is he already matched up?
He's got a fight like next week. He's against Calvin Kattar.
Yeah, Calvin Kattar can definitely not get it because like a historic beating. Yeah, Giga is already matched up. Chan Sung Jung, sorry.
Hey! We're not gonna call him Chan Sang Jung on this podcast. His name is Korean Zombie.
Korean Zombie. I know.
Okay. And it will always be Korean Zombie on this podcast. How dare you, sir? But yeah, Chan Sung Jung.
Yeah, does he already have a fight?
No, but you know what? It's funny because he apparently was really down for it, and I remember. Sorry, yeah, he was really pulling for it. And his manager said that he's ready and willing. And I remember going on, I think it was, I can't remember which IG account. I want to say it was Haymakers or MMA Fighting. And I went, I love TKZ, but absolutely not, or something along those lines. And the way people came after my soul, there was a lot of people who liked it, but the way people came after my soul on Instagram, you know, because of the Chan Sung Jung, I guess perceived Chan Sung Jung hate was amazing. Which leads me to believe that people love him, and he's a good option to salvage the card. I just think tactically, it's not the fight that
would be a tough fight.
Yeah.
And then the other person, he's coming off a win against Danny Game, which is a fight I don't even remember. But it was a headline fight in June last year.
Chan Sung Jung beat Danny Game.
Yeah, that was his last fight. The last fight I remember was him getting smoked by Brian Ortega. Like literally outboxed by Brian Ortega, which is the same.
But see, I wonder how much of that was because of that spinning elbow early. You know what I'm saying? Let's say there's an alternate universe where Brian Ortega doesn't land that spinning elbow. Does he still get outboxed early like that?
I don't know, but it didn't look good, man. Like,
yeah.
No disrespect, Brian Ortega, fantastic jiu-jitsu player, fantastic, but not known for boxing guys up. Like most of his wins, like
are come from behind ass whoop where he's getting his ass whooped and then he lands a Hail Mary.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to say. I don't know. I don't know if I love that matchup with
that. Me either.
The other person who's supposed to be stepping in is Henry Cejudo. Triple C is trying to become quadruple C, which as a selling point makes sense, but what are your thoughts, gentlemen?
Okay, so Jeremy.
Look, I might be ignorant, but like I don't know how. I feel like you can sell anything. Like, how do you fall for this? Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Like, isn't he retired?
Yeah. Well,
like why would you want to see him come out of retirement to like
he does this every year. Literally, I think since he's retired, he's done this every year where there's a big fight, sometimes not even in his division, and he'd be like, "Oh, guys, I'm coming out of retirement. I'm ready. It's gonna be this time." And he never.
You know what's crazy though? Even though I say I don't want to see it, the night of the fight, I will be interested enough to watch it though.
Yeah, no, come on, of course.
He definitely does. Number one, I too am getting tired of the shtick where he's retired and he's unretiring himself to fight. Like, come on, man.
And he's calling everybody out.
Yeah, he keeps calling everybody out. Let's not forget the context in which he retired, where like he won the title, and then like I think in that same like night, like he said he was retiring.
Yeah, he beat Dominic Cruz, and then it was like,
I'm done.
Mike Tyson's in his head. He's like, you can do it, man. You can come out of retirement, man.
I mean,
no, but you know what? Here's the thing. I think it's not going to happen. I think everyone knows it's not going to happen. But even if it were to, sorry.
Cejudo, another amazing in-fight adjuster.
Yeah. Yes, sir. That Marlon Moraes fight, I think, was I think that Marlon Moraes fight really well. The DJ fight, of course, too. The second one, but the Marlon Moraes fight, I think a lot of people really, looked at that and saw, a dude like a legit all timer. Especially given how dominant Marlon Moraes was leading up to that fight and including that first round. So, yeah, look, I like Henry Cejudo. I think if Henry Cejudo was like a year removed from the Dominic Cruz fight, and I think he relinquished his title, but like he's still training and whatever, or he hadn't, what I'm saying, if there was a circumstance where he was still active and still training and still ready, I would say why not? You know what I'm saying? To me it would be like the Joanna Valentina situation where Joanna steps up to the plate in that 125 belt, but it's not, right? But
I feel like Cejudo's definitely training. Like till this day. First of all, he's trained what's it called? Weili for her rematch against Rose, and that was only a couple months ago.
But my thing is, but training somebody and training yourself are two different things. Like,
and this is an unpopular opinion, I might be completely wrong, but when you're an Olympic caliber wrestler, champion, and you've been doing this for your entire life, like it's a certain bug that like you're always gonna have. Like even like retired fighters, like for example, Chael Sonnen, definitely, even Michael Bisping. Well, maybe not Bisping because he's injured, but like a lot of these retired fighters are definitely still training like every day because it's just part of their lifestyle. So for all we know,
but Dave, I gotta say, there's a difference. Like I mean, I am not at the level, like even close as like Henry Cejudo, but there is a difference between like you go to the gym and you're training, and then you are in fight camp, ready, in shape, training. You know what I'm saying? There's a difference. For better and for worse. Like, just to pull the curtain back, I find that like from a technical perspective, it's actually worse because you're just sharpening the tools you already have. But from a like getting athlete ready perspective, it's a different game. It's a different game. It's not the same. And like I just don't think Henry Cejudo, his senses for battle right now are ready to take on Alexander Volkanovski at a division he's never fought before.
I think it would be, well, first of all, Volkanovski is definitely not going to wrestle him. That's number one.
Yeah.
Number two, and so it's going to be a stand-up fight. And even though Cejudo's striking has improved like leaps and bounds in the last couple of months, last couple of fights, I should say. I mean, Volkanovski might be the most like, what's the word I'm looking for? Trickiest fighter in the featherweight division. I mean, I think like at this point we've seen like if you don't go in for a guy who never was like a striking guy, he wasn't a Muay Thai guy or anything like that. I've been watching a lot of videos of Brad Riddalzo fights. Like he strikes like a seasoned striker. You know what I mean? The way he's incorporating his face.
But remember how when we had that conversation, me, you, and Stefano had that conversation about athlete carryover and some of these things, like and the rolling of the eyes happened. Guess what Volkanovski was doing before he went into MMA? Yeah. Okay, so
but he's an outlier, man, because like
of course,
but feel for the game is like totally different than like people who've been doing this their entire lives. Like you look at like Holloway versus Volkanovski, then look at like Holloway versus Rodriguez. Like Rodriguez has been doing this his entire life since he's like a kid. He's a black belt in Taekwondo, like really good at jiu-jitsu, all these things that you wouldn't necessarily say for even Ortega, like Holloway versus Ortega. Ortega has been doing this like for time, like has probably the best jiu-jitsu in the division, but it doesn't matter. How I mean, yeah. Volkanovski was still able to, even though he got put into some pretty tough submissions, was still able to kind of put the beat down on him, from a lot of the time from like the half guard. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it was a rollover. It was a rollover for the most part.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I just think
no, I'm with you. I just want to kind of gloat a little bit and just put that little sprinkle in there that, hey man, there's carryover. There's carryover.
Some carryover, but I think like it's overstated a lot in the media, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I'm with you on that one.
I think like, yeah, if it was a different champion, first of all, Cejudo wouldn't say this for Max Holloway because he knows he just get boxed up. In my opinion,
too big, too long. I think that's also the problem is Volkanovski gets consistently disrespected and underrated. I think part of it is because he's 5'7", or maybe shorter actually. Now that I think about it, but he's a short dude in a division of like guys who look giant, like Brian Ortega. I think he's listed at 5'9", but ain't no way he's 5'9". Ain't no way. And Max Holloway's like 5'11". Yair Rodriguez is damn near 6'2". Like Calvin Kattar's damn near 6 feet as well. Like he's in a field of trees, and he's like the little man, and everyone's kind of thinking, okay, there's no way because these guys are too long. They are boxing too aesthetically pretty. And Volkanovski, what does he do? Feint an inside leg kick? Oh, whatever, right? And then he comes in there and he's tricky and he's hard to figure out, and he outboxes and outstrikes you, right? And all of a sudden you're down 3 rounds to 0 and need a miracle. Like,
I see it, and he's a decent grappler too. And I think most importantly, just to like cap off this conversation, Cejudo had previously said he wouldn't do it. Like he's not going to give a title fight to a guy who's never fought in the division, has disrespected other fighters, like trying to.
Sorry, you mean Volkanovski wouldn't do it?
Yeah, Volkanovski. Sorry, what did I say? Cejudo?
You said Cejudo, but I just want to. At first, I was just a little confused.
Yeah, Volkanovski said he's not giving the title fight to Cejudo. Guys have been working since Cejudo's been retired. Guys have been fighting consistently, winning, losing, in order to climb the rankings, and for a guy to just like drop in, all for the gimmick of saying he's a quadruple champion, which I do find hilarious, and that is an interesting angle. Like I don't know, it just doesn't sit right with me, and I don't think it sits right with Volkanovski. So I wouldn't be surprised.
And I respect that. I respect that road of like, because meanwhile you got Oliveira saying he'll fight Conor McGregor, and he'll fight Kamaru Usman or Volkanovski, trying to get some money out here, and I can respect that route too. I respect that route too. But
I get it. I don't respect it, but I get it. Get your money, man.
Yeah, get the bag.
Letting this conversation go. So Volkanovski is still up in the air, right?
Yeah, Volkanovski is still up in the air. I think it's gonna get canceled, honestly. I see them giving it to Emmett or Korean Zombie. I don't see them waiting to give it to the winner of Kattar versus Chikadze. If Giga gets it, like I'm sorry,
okay. Let me kind of paint a scenario. If let's say Giga or Calvin Kattar roll over the other guy, right? Or like the fight's quick and no one gets hurt, right? Could you see Giga get it in a fight against Alexander Volkanovski? And honestly, I don't mind his chances. I honestly don't mind his chances.
Because I think like Volkanovski isn't like the other city kickboxing guys. He is going to wrestle.
That's true.
He's gonna be tricky about it. He's gonna set it up too. So, let me not say I don't like his chances. Who knows how that fight would go? But I actually think that Volkanovski poses like a lot of problems for Giga, and for Calvin Kattar, I don't know. I just think like after that beatdown from Max Holloway, like, he's gonna need a couple of performances in order to earn his way back to that title shot. Personally.
That's fair. No, I was just painting the scenario out there. see if my boy Magomed Sharipov, obviously he was going through surgery, but if my boy Magomed Sharipov is good and is healthy, maybe, but yeah, I think it's pretty much gonna get canceled. I'm with Jeremy on this one. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Last kind of little bit of topic. This is the big one. This one is the one I thought we were going to spend forever on, but the Jake Paul and Dana White saga that happened over the last couple of weeks. Would we all like a kind of a preamble breakdown before we go around the room? For the fans, for the people, I'll give a little kind of, I guess I would say breakdown as to what happened here. So this started out because Jake Paul made some incendiary comments about Dana White and alleging some drug use of a drug that we will not say because we like monetization. Yay. Shake my ass for the money. Okay. And then Dana White said, you know what? I'll screw it. I'll say it because I can't say the story without it. He basically alleged that Dana White does cocaine. And to which, if he does, cool, whatever, okay. And if he doesn't, cool, whatever. All right, I'm done. I don't care about Dana White's personal lives, personal life.
He's not an athlete. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, if he's leading a healthy life, I would rather that, but whatever. Okay. And so Dana White, I guess, was upset about that, and he goes on, I guess, Instagram or whatever, and says to Jake Paul,
Can I interject here and just say right? I feel like we don't take into consideration, just watching The Ultimate Fighter a little bit more from the first season, how much Dana White has really morphed into just a different beast from what he was initially. I get he was a kickboxing coach. But you watch him in those early seasons, he looks like a regular person. Nowadays, he looks like a fighter.
He's in shape.
Huge. He's in shape. TRT shots, man. I'm telling you. I'm gonna get myself on some.
Yeah, I'm telling people the second I hit 42, 43, we're going.
White mania. Shoot me up, Scotty. Shoot me up. Sorry, you were telling the story about Dana White.
Yeah. No, yeah. Yeah. So, but yeah,
I think it was Teddy Atlas's podcast, where he said he wanted to drug test Jake Paul, right?
Yeah. So Dana White, TRT White.
Maybe it could have been on social media.
It could have been anywhere, but to be honest, because I remember a video where he said, you know what? It was probably Teddy Atlas's podcast. Where he said first, he says to Jake Paul, I will drug test. I will agree to a drug test for cocaine for 10 years if you agree to be drug tested for 2 years. Under it wasn't under USADA, but just drug tested for steroids for 2 years, right? So Jake Paul calling Dana White's bluff. Puts out this statement, right?
Before we go into that, can I just say we all think that Jake Paul is on the juice, right? That's
yeah. If you put a gun to my head and asked, yes.
And are you sure you still want to fight this guy, Jeremy? Okay, go on.
Honestly, I didn't even think about it, but after Dana White said something, I was like, you know what, that would make sense. But I'll fight Jake Paul. What the fuck?
Because the money, right?
Now that I've gotten into a fight, I'm I feel like a king. I feel like a warrior. I
like it.
Man,
listen. I'll be honest. Some of the paydays these guys are getting, I do it too. Man, I
don't care if I lose. Yeah,
you are a fighter. So first of all, I honestly think Jake Paul might clean your clock. After he beat Tyron Woodley, I think we can say
no, he's legit. He's real. He's real.
For sure, he knows how to box. But it's different for you. But for you to say like, either me or Jeremy, who never fought before, could beat Jake Paul at the time when you said it.
So understand at the time we said it. It was he just finished beating Nate Robinson.
Yeah.
Right. So it was and in that Nate Robinson fight, he showed a propensity for skills, but he didn't show an ability to game plan, an ability to adjust, the ability to take a shot. Like certain things you need to check the boxes with. And he also showed a lack of technical crispness in like the actual punches he was throwing. Like you could tell he had power.
David's asking like, if I had the resources I had now, I'm more so thinking about it. If I had the resources Jake Paul had, would I be able to beat him? I just feel like I would.
All I know, Jeremy, is that you better get your number of fights up, because since that conversation, Jake Paul has had like.
No, man. Listen,
but the other thing too about Jake
that's
Paul,
a good point that's a good point that you bring up. Like steroids in fighting, I just feel like it's when it comes to fighting. Like when it comes to football, steroids helps you a lot. But when it comes to like fighting, I feel like steroids doesn't really it can give you power, but it doesn't really make you a better fighter. I feel like
here's the thing. If you have better weapons, like if let's say you have a harder kick or a harder punch, it allows you to allows you to play a different game that you would. If let's say you have better blood flow and you're fresher because of the EPO, like I'll tell you firsthand, like if you take a shot to the face, but pause. You take a punch to the face better if you can, are more in condition and more in shape than when you're not. So if you're taking like let's say an EPO or some sort of drug that helps with conditioning, now all of a sudden you're taking shots better. Now, of course, that doesn't really stop you from getting your light shut out by Francis Ngannou, but from other dudes, it can keep you fresh, right? So, yes, I do agree. Yeah, I do agree what you're saying. Yeah, like I do get what you're saying. Like at the end of the day, the mind and the technical acumen for fighting is going to take you through at the end of the day, but having those physical advantages raises your ceiling. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna. Let's stop the cap there. Steroids help. PEDs help. Let's stop the cap.
No, they help. They help. Yeah. Just.
I think I agree with Jeremy's take. Like steroids alone might not help, but if you're also training, and you have some skills, and then you add steroids on that, it gives you an unfair advantage for sure. Yeah,
like look at the Vitor Belfort.
Yeah, we've seen many people.
Remember that run Vitor Belfort, TRT Vitor was on when he was just knocking people out. He turned Michael Bisping blind, for God's sakes, guys.
I want to see Jake Paul fight like an actual boxer, which I'm sure he is sparring them, but I just want to see him like in an actual with the lights on. I want to see him with an actual boxer.
Yeah, he was supposed to fight Tommy Fury, right? Until that fight got.
But even Tommy Fury, his record's embarrassing. There was one fight he fought dude with 100 and something losses. Like I
wouldn't mind a Tommy Fury though. I wouldn't mind a Tommy Fury when I saw him fight that one guy on the Wilder Fury card. Tommy Fury, I wouldn't mind seeing that.
Wait, there was. I think wasn't it the Jake Paul undercard he fought?
Maybe it was. Maybe you're right. Maybe it was
Yeah, he fought the MMA fighter. Like Tommy Fury.
For some reason, I thought it was on the other one.
Yeah, no. Tommy Fury's no like saint when it comes to what's it called? Taking easier fights either, right? And we have to, like just before I go on with the story, we have to remember that with Jake Paul, right? And with he's doing the route that other boxers have done. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's not facing a guy who's an official boxer, technically, but he is fighting guys who are commensurate to his experience, just like, like I always use Floyd as the example. Floyd coming off an Olympic bronze medal. Was it bronze or silver? No, coming off an Olympic bronze medal, was facing bums. absolute bums. No, like you know.
But you know what though? Like, I just feel like when I'm boxing MMA fighters, I'm much more comfortable than if I'm boxing actual boxers. Because
even if a boxer's 2-43.
For sure, at least he knows the fundamentals. I mean, we
right,
saw with like both the Tyron. I mean, less so with Tyron, but definitely with Ben Askren, and Conor McGregor moving over to boxing. Like, there's just
right,
a feel for the game that they don't have.
Listen,
yeah.
I
guys,
guarantee.
listen.
Because like I've gone up against like a couple boxers I met around the city, and like I'm not gonna lie, some of them are better than some of the guys that we train with that do MMA, and they've only done it for like a couple years, so it's like I just feel like it's different. Like I feel like it's different. Like I feel like Max Kellerman says, someone who has that muscle memory for boxing is just different.
No, I get what you're saying, but what I'm trying to explain to you is, there's Chris Lytle is a good example. Chris Lytle did pancrase, he did MMA, he's a jiu-jitsu black belt, but Chris Lytle's record in boxing is very flattering. Like what was it, 7-1 or something like that, right? So there's many ways to skin a cat in MMA for sure, but if you have the aptitude to be a winner, you have an aptitude to be a winner, right? And what I'm saying is these guys that some of these boxers face early do not have the aptitude to be a winner. You're telling me who's that one boxer who looked like a cartoon 1930s boxer? The video I'm talking about where he got finished with a body shot by the end, and he was like, you know what I'm saying? And he's fighting on national television. You're telling
That's
me
a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point. Like
right?
sometimes some people have a better feel for combat sports than other people. Yeah,
Dude, he's fighting on national television, throwing punches like this, and he's considered an official boxer because he's never really fought MMA. So like, just labeling MMA fighter, boxer is not that smart. We have to understand the context behind.
Yeah, no, he is strategically picking the right MMA fighters.
Yeah, we have to understand context, and yeah, he is picking wrestlers. Like, look, if you were to pick, like, let's say Nate Diaz, for example. Now Nate Diaz is much smaller, and you never know if Nate Diaz could take a shot like that.
And I don't like Nate Diaz's chances. Like initially I was like, oh yeah, Nate Diaz is gonna kill him, but man, I don't like Nate Diaz's chances because even though he's got like good MMA boxing, which is a totally different thing.
Yeah,
like you can't just. It's much tougher to just like walk.
Andre Ward swears by the Diaz brothers, though. Andre Ward will swear by him and say like these guys are like legit.
Andre Ward also said that Caleb Plant would beat Canelo Alvarez, though. So
and Caleb Plant,
I feel like Andre Ward put some emotion in his decision sometimes. I love Andre Ward, I do, but
hey man, Caleb fought as good of a fight as you could, though. He did fight. Caleb fought a good fight, though.
Now that's true, but yeah, no, that's
Caleb
true.
fought a good fight. Yeah, Caleb fought a good fight. So it's not like Andre was talking shit. Like, okay, sorry. Anyway, the point is, before we veer too far off the road, that like I don't necessarily think this whole like, oh, he's only fought bums is a fair point for Jake Paul. Like, and this is talking from a guy who doesn't necessarily have an opinion one way or the other on Jake Paul, like the boxer. As a person, terrible. Objectively terrible. But, as a boxer, I just want to say that it's not a fair comparison because if you pull up I will guarantee you 70% of the all-time greats, if you pull up their early 10-fight record, you'll be shocked at some of the lunch pail factory workers they were fighting.
That's totally fair.
Yeah.
I do.
At least Jake Paul's fighting a combat sports athlete,
and trying to steer us back onto the whole point of this segment, which we have lost in the last 15 minutes.
Oh yeah.
I think that first of all, some of the people that let me not say respect, but their opinions are informed, swear by Jake Paul in terms of not only his boxing skill but also his attitude. Like a lot of people say, like he's a good guy. He just puts it on for the media, which I've become a pretty big fan of Colby Covington, which is ironic, but like I actually
I like Covington the fighter too. I just think he's a racist. I don't know.
I'm not talking about his fighting. His fighting is boring. I'm talking about like his interviews are by far the most interesting thing that I've heard since Chael Sonnen. Like I actually think he's hilarious. Like
he's getting a better feel for his character. I will say.
His gun game, his like trash talk game is second to none. But
second to none, I wouldn't go that far. But he's getting a feel. He's got a feel. We are so off topic. I know.
Is that Jake Paul, testament to his good character, is doing the things that a lot of other people in the space aren't doing, in that he's
and we'll get to it.
Dana White. He's arguing for more fighter pay, and this isn't something that he just picked up today. Before
he's been doing it forever. He's been doing it forever.
Like ever since his first fight, pretty much, where he was getting called out. Like he was like, even after his win against Tyron Woodley, he was like, yeah, you know.
He was doing it since Nate Robinson. He was talking about fighter pay since Nate Robinson. Right? So
I mean, can you really turn around and say, oh yeah, this guy is a piece of trash and blah blah blah, even though his YouTube videos.
There's the whole suicide forest, then there was the controversies, and then there's the alleged rape case. You know, like
I really don't know anything about that. So I'm not gonna. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna.
No. So look, because it's alleged, I don't want to be making judgments one way or the other. But you know, It's not like he hasn't gotten himself in trouble, and all we have to go off of making assessments of his character are his interviews. No, he has gotten into trouble. Like he's had Disney sponsorships taken away from him for getting into trouble. He has controversies. He has skeletons in the closet.
I'm not going to debate that, but
he's accused of robbing and looting during the Black Lives Matter riots. Like that's those are things.
Was he convicted?
No, but what I'm saying is like his posse was. People in his circle have been, but again, like, and I'm not saying this to denigrate. I'm just saying, like, let's not. As much as I like what he's doing about this fighter pay stuff, and we will talk about it, I don't also want to I don't want to paint a rose-colored picture of who he is as a person. I don't.
I mean, hey, do you have the tweets of
yes.
The terms he had for Dana White?
Yeah.
That's I think the most interesting thing about it, because there's no point debating about his character because neither of us know him. So
yeah. No, that's a fair point. Okay, so Jake Paul, after the drug testing, went to social media to say to Dana White, "Happy New Year, Dana White. Here's a real challenge for you. I will immediately retire from boxing and fight Jorge Masvidal in the UFC if you agree to, number one, increase fighter minimum pay to $50K. It's $12K now. I think he might be wrong in that number because I remember it being $9K recently, but I might be wrong.
I think your first fight is 12-12. That's the base pay.
Is it 12-12? Because I remember it being 9-9. Maybe that was a couple years back, and now it's changed since. But okay. But even then, 12K, like, not great. And so, okay. Number two, guarantee UFC fighters 50% of the revenues. The revenue for the UFC was $1 billion in 2021, which Jake Paul got right. That is correct. Number three, provide long-term health care to all fighters. You previously said brain damage is part of the gig. Imagine the NFL said that, which is true. He did say that about Spencer Fisher. That did happen. There are UFC alums who have publicly said they are suffering from brain damage. So I think he is referring to Spencer Fisher on that one.
Not just one guy. Like, we all know, like, a lot of cases of, like, fighters who've been fighting for a long time, whether in the UFC or outside the UFC, and have, like, significantly degenerated, like, the health of their brain. Like, let's be real. Like, even though I can see where Dana White is coming from because it is part of the gig, but like that doesn't mean it's right, and it's all the reason why they deserve more revenue, why they deserve a better base pay, and why they deserve some kind of health insurance as well.
Oh, for sure. Like I'm let's not pretend like that's not a thing. You know, I'm just saying, like, I think the specific case they're pointing towards when he said that was the Spencer Fisher interview, and then the post Spencer Fisher interview, there was the question that he was asked, and Dana White went, part of the gig, shrugged his shoulders. Sorry, Rich was very cold, and I was very disappointed in Dana White for that. A guy who kind of prided himself, at least early too, as a guy who cares about the fighters who provide loyalty. That broke my heart a little bit. Anyway, I go on. So he goes on to tweet, "You have 5 days to accept and to implement the above by March 31st, 2022. Once implemented, I will immediately retire from boxing, enter USADA, and agree to a one-fight deal with the UFC to fight Weak Chin Jorge or George, depending on who you talk to. To all the UFC fighters, time to take a stand and create value for yourselves and your peers. You deserve higher pay, you deserve long-term health care, and above all, you deserve freedom. Support each other. I am not your enemy. I am your advocate. ... Who selfishly wants to KO a few of you to make some big bang?"
Andrew Yang can get it done.
He had to add that little one in there, didn't he? Yeah. And then Dana White comes out and says, I'm paraphrasing, but the highlights of it is, you still haven't accepted the challenge, which he kind of did when he said he would be drug tested under USADA. And he also said Jake Paul's too stupid to write that because there's a dude he's with who used to work for the UFC who wrote that, and that guy's a scumbag. And you know, that's basically
response, because I think Morning Combat covered it well in terms of, it's really just like stereotypical bully boy tactics where somebody raises a valid point, and instead of you addressing the point, you kind of just like do the whole distraction thing and be like, oh well, you know, it's start doing ad hominem attacks, which is besides the point. Like, now we're talking about your business, focus on the business. And you know, I'll just restate my point that which other fighter is doing this? We've seen fighters come out arguing for fighter pay. There's a current lawsuit, I think.
Antitrust lawsuit.
Yeah, antitrust lawsuit, which is launched by somebody, I can't remember the name, but I
think it was a bunch of guys. It was Nate Quarry, I believe. No, Nate Marquardt, and Kung Lee, and there was other fighters involved, but those are the two I remember by heart.
Yeah, and we've seen how those guys, they've basically fallen off the face of the earth. Like, they don't get interviews, they don't get nothing. And the lawsuit is still ongoing. It's been years though, like maybe even like a decade now. Like, it's been going on for a while. And you know, we've seen Francis Ngannou, for example, come out arguing for better pay. Nothing. Gets his title basically given away in an interim title fight. We've seen John Jones come out arguing for not even better pay for everybody, because you know, and it's always interesting with this whole thing, because I see Conor McGregor.
It's always better for. They're always arguing for themselves. They want,
you know, in kind of the same way that LeBron insists on signing, like, well, before LA insisted on signing like a 1-year deal every time, just so that, you know, he's the best player and he can be like the standard bearer. And you know, every time he's asking for more and more and more, so he's kind of pushing the envelope a little bit more, and showing players like what they should be getting and what their true worth is. And you know, to a certain degree, Jordan did the same, but maybe less. I think John Jones may be taking that approach where he's like, okay, like, because I'm the pound for pound number one, some are arguing the best UFC fighter of all time, like, I deserve to be paid X. And you know, Conor McGregor did the same thing, but I think it's John Jones' time now, and I don't think it's being received the same way. But apart from those, and even Ngannou, you know, heavyweight champion, that's supposed to be like the flagship division for like the UFC, and he's getting treated like a piece of trash, and not getting paid as much as some of the other guys. And I can see, like, you know, apart from those guys, like, nobody's really coming out and like bucking against the system. Even guys like Adesanya, who I go 50-50 in terms of his person. I really don't know him, so I can't really speak to him, but he seems like a reasonable person, even though his media personality is pretty outlandish sometimes. But he seems like somebody who would be in favor of like unionization and better fighter pay and all that kind of stuff, like we don't really see many fighters come out like arguing against like the.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. When it comes to this fighter pay stuff and Jake Paul as a combat sports mind, I am done hating him. Like I am done hating him. He is saying all the right things. He is doing all the right things. So I'm with you. I'm with you. And I think this is true. Like people forget the argument with Francis Ngannou was not about fighter pay at first. It was he needed a month. 1 month. One.
To correct you though, the second he got the title fight, he was already arguing for better pay. Like he was
arguing for better pay, but that specific fight, the only thing he was asking for when he was going to fight Derek Lewis was he needed 1 month. He needed 1 month extra. He was willing to fight. He needed 1 month. In fact, I think that the whole thing was he would fight the next pay-per-view. He just couldn't do it that specific one. And what did they do? They told Ciryl Gane, who I love. I've been singing Ciryl Gane's praises. Everyone knows I've been singing his praises for like the better part of like 3 years. Ever the first episode of this podcast, I was on Ciryl Gane, right? But they got Ciryl Gane, and I'm willing to bet they purposely picked Ciryl Gane because Ferdinand Lopez is willing to drag Francis through the mud, right? Who is Ciryl Gane's current coach, to fight Derek Lewis for less money in Texas, which is Derek Lewis's hometown, and also the UFC's spiritual home now, Texas or Florida, depending on who you talk to, right? To fight a main event, right? This is what Dana White does, and I think, he's a businessman. No one's calling him on it. He wins every time, right? But when you get a guy like Jake Paul who is kind of arguing for better conditions, right? It's something that I can appreciate, and I'm quite frankly on the side of. Oh, you're on mute.
Let's be real. I think that Jake Paul might have a bigger profile than the UFC, which is saying a lot because the UFC is huge. But he, like, if you do like whatever kind of quantitative measure you want, like I think he would be right up there. He's definitely bigger than Dana White. But like the UFC as a whole, like I think he's one of the few people with enough power, independence, and leverage to actually, I don't know about leverage, but power and independence to actually like make the statement and not have his pockets affected like at all.
Yeah,
so,
I'll give you an example. When Jake Paul put out that tweet, House of Highlights, Bleacher Report, Sportsnet, and CNN all covered it.
As they should.
Right? But no other fighter would have been able to get that. I don't even think Conor McGregor would have had that kind of level of.
Conor McGregor has had his own like gripes about pay, and next thing you know, he's fighting what's his name? Not Dustin Poirier, the other one. He's fighting Cowboy Cerrone. And then he's fighting Dustin Poirier and etc. So maybe they settled that behind the scenes. I think for the Cerrone fight, I'm pretty sure I read something where he did get a certain percentage of the revenue, but it was definitely just advocating for himself. Like this is what makes it different. This is like a blanket, like everyone should be getting better treatment from the UFC. And honestly, I really haven't, and of course we haven't, but I really haven't heard many fighters come out and speak against it or say they're in favor of it.
They can't. They can't.
Yeah, of course. But like everyone's kind of just like minding their business, which I get it. But at the same time, for a guy to say that, we got to give him his props. And he's right. All of his points were factual, well articulated, based in data, and were things that are on the top of everybody who watches MMA, specifically everybody's mind. So, yeah, I don't know. I really don't know if there's really much more to say on that because
I think it's just I just don't know why it's such a big deal to give a fighter $50K to show him $50K to win. You know what I'm saying? I don't. These are the things that like I just don't.
Economics. You look at it. There's maybe 20 fighters on every card, maybe. The top guys are earning like 6 figures easily. Some of them are earning 7 figures, and then even on the lower down, like I don't know. Basically, not. I don't think every UFC show, especially with these like fight nights on ESPN, I don't think each one is grossing in terms of revenue, especially on the night revenue, more than maybe a couple $1 million, maybe.
But okay, but David, if let's say you're the main event, you get 300K to show, 300K to win, right? Um, and then starting pay is 50K to show, 50K to win. I don't see a world where you don't make money when you include the ESPN deal, sponsorships, fight kit deal. Like I don't see the world, right? I don't understand. Huh?
It could be done, but it's not done in order to maximize profits. Like let's just call it as it is.
Yeah. And but my thing is like is that profit margin really that like is it really that slim that you need to do that? Like it's not. And it just saddens me because it's like you have poor what was her name? The poor girl who couldn't pay for her own fight camp, so she had to put up a GoFundMe.
Yeah, I can't remember what her name was.
But you remember, and then Cheyenne Buys was in debt for a fight camp, and it goes beyond Dana White too. Some of these fight camps, and I know I'm going to be blackballed for that, for saying that. Some of these fight camps and some of these managers, and you know, is it like at what point do we have to stop being business people and start being human beings? You know what I'm saying?
To say that combat sports is a dirty game because I think that might be the first time anybody's ever said that. What? What? Boxing coaches, MMA coaches, and managers are exploitative? What? See the shock look on my face?
Oh my goodness, you know, but no one talks about it, right? None of these fighters talk about it because they have to protect themselves and they don't. Yeah.
Like this is like even on an amateur level, training is expensive.
Oh my god,
it's so expensive. And shouts out to all the gym owners. I can only imagine what their operational costs are. Their insurance must be through the roof. But like all of this stuff, even buying equipment and stuff like that, like it's not cheap. But at the same time, like it's expensive for the consumer, for the average practitioner, let alone like at the pro level, where who knows how much money you might spend for a training camp? 50K, 30K. I've heard consistently like most training camps are about like 30K. So if you're getting 12 to show, 12 to win.
Come on,
better do more than one fight.
And you're not even getting sponsorship money because your sponsorship money gets slashed in half because you can't even put up the banner. You can't even put a banner full of all your sponsors before the fight. You can't even wear shorts with sponsors on them, right? You wear. I think Matt Mitrione had Nikes on and had to take his Nikes off, right? When he was fighting in the UFC. So it's just one of those things where it's like, at what point, like, okay, if you're not going to pay him the money, right? And I'm not saying Dude Wipes has to be on the back of someone's shorts, but put in a place where you can have approved sponsors for these guys, right?
And we've seen a little bit of that, and we're getting way off the
Monster and Crypto, who also sponsor UFC. Come on.
No. Like even like some of these like CBD people. I'm talking more on social media. Like a lot of fighters have gotten hip to the game and have been starting to focus more on like their social media presence in order to monetize, their image. And I think that might be the future of the sport. But in terms of like for fighting, like I don't think sponsors are coming back anytime soon.
No, I'm not saying they adapt. I'm just saying.
I think like the way to advance it is kind of what Jake Paul is talking about, like better healthcare. A lot of fighters are paying out of. Although I do think the UFC does pay for some health procedures if they're related to competition, but I think like better healthcare, better base pay, profit sharing or revenue sharing, really. I think like if you're standard like corporation, like mom and pop shop, like I've been part of organizations that do profit sharing and revenue sharing, so If they can do it, why can't the UFC?
You know, I get there's a 401k, you know, that people like I've worked at jobs that give you a 401k. So I don't understand why that's like just not in the UFC's interest. And I get it. Like, you know, like at the end of the day, I don't want to sit here and be like, oh, Dana White's a monster, like devil human being. No, that's not what I'm trying to say because he's a businessman. He's negotiating the best deal he can. It's just it turns into very, very, very exploitive at certain points, and
But
it's like, why? You know?
when you get Jeremy's thoughts on this, and then we'll move on to like the last few topics. What I don't understand is the fans that are on Dana White's side who just like try to find
No, I understand it,
nation. I get it; they're bootleggers. I get it. But
but it's not even bootlickers. It's just it. Okay, we talked about the NBA briefly in this thing, right? But oftentimes player empowerment comes at the detriment of fans getting the best product. Example, if you're a player and your owner is not getting the best players and the best pieces for you to win, you use your player empowerment to leave, right? And if you're a fan in, let's say, Oklahoma City, that means you have a losing season next year, right? Your team goes through a losing season. You don't get the joys of going to the playoffs. You don't get the joys of watching your teams win, right? And at the end of the day, that's what people care about. So, you know, in their minds, they're kind of in this thought of, oh, well, if we pay this fighter on the undercard too much, they're not gonna put in a good performance, or they're not gonna be as hungry, or you know, they're gonna show up. Which again,
I think it's that. With all due respect, Mike, and Jeremy, please jump in at some point. But
I was gonna say I think that's bullshit.
yeah,
BS.
no, I really
no,
that's
I
BS
think it's bullshit
because
too.
no.
But I'm thinking this is
Listen,
how
Jeremy,
fans think. This is how fans think.
Michael, that's a BS.
I think that's BS because fighters, if you're paying me more, I'm just thinking if you're paying me more, I'm gonna work harder personally. But I think you talked about this before, how where the UFC used like where it came from, where it started from, and where it started from, this might have been the way, but the UFC has grown exponentially, and it's because of the fighters. But this world is weird, man, because like people don't care about fighters unless they're entertaining. Like if somebody's respectful, like you know, very docile, very down to earth, people they won't generate as much money. But when they're all like, you know, abrasive and boisterous and stuff, that's when they're able to generate some power for themselves, like Jake Paul. Jake Paul is not only he's not only like attempting to change the UFC game, he's also like trying to change, well, he's also changed the boxing game. And a lot of these fighters have realized like they can have power in their own hands if they're willing to put in the work on social media and stuff. So, but yeah, I am definitely on the side of Jake Paul. And I think the UFC needs to change because they owe the fighters for the growth of the UFC.
For the record, I just want to stress, I agree with you guys. I'm just, you know, pointing out.
That's why I can't even buy that argument, because looking back to the start of the UFC, as Jeremy said, like fighters were allowed to switch organizations and fight in different organizations and then come, whether it's once a year, 2 times a year, and fight under the UFC. And the problem is that we had stars like, you know, Chuck Liddell, I almost said, what's his name? Randy Couture. Like all of these guys who were Shamrock, like let's call it as it is, bigger than the UFC. And the UFC was basically building stars that would then leave, fight for other organizations, and make them money. So I get why.
And sometimes lose and then be damaged goods when they come to the UFC.
Exactly. So I get, you know, from a certain perspective, I see why it's a little bit more restrictive now. But I wanted to kind of counter your point also about the NBA by saying that the UFC is more synonymous right now with the NFL, in that, and we've seen this kind of change over the years, but like it's the shield that's the most important thing, not the actual players themselves, which is not the way it's marketed. It's marketed as here's this amazing fighter who's once in a generation. He's got so many interesting skills and et cetera, et cetera. But in reality, beneath that is like he is the best fighter in the world because he fights for the premier fighting organization, which the UFC is. I mean, at this point, nobody can debate like what organization has the best level of competition.
Oh, absolutely.
UFC is like banking on that and using that as the reason for why fighters don't deserve to be paid. So that's why I call BS on if you pay the lower card fighters that they wouldn't be motivated to perform.
No, I agree. I'm not saying that.
The argument of that, because like I don't even think fans think like that, in my opinion. I think it's more like, no, nobody deserves to be in the UFC, which isn't true, by the way, but they think nobody deserves to be in the UFC. You should be grateful for even being here, and you should take whatever they give you because you're.
I think I also think it's some of that right wing mentality of like you put your lunch pail, and if you work hard and do this, then you'll reach the top, and only certain people, and it's like
Once again, I keep talking about the wrestling videos I've watched, but what I've learned about in professional wrestling is like it doesn't matter who has the best skills. A lot of the fighters that we love the most, Stone Cold, The Rock, The Rock was okay. Stone Cold, Triple H, like they're not the most, John Cena, not the most like gifted wrestlers. It's really the way they're marketed. A lot of the one exception I would say is The Undertaker, who is a truly phenomenal wrestler, but even Hulk Hogan was not the most like exciting wrestler.
People make memes about how bad of a wrestler Hulk Hogan was between the ropes, like.
But it's like the way that they're marketed. I don't know. I don't know why people are pretending that it's like a meritocracy. Nothing in life is a meritocracy. Yeah. Even arguably the most meritocracy, the most merited, I don't know the right word, the sport where meritocracy is kind of like linked to the most, which is fighting, and that if you get beat, you get beat. But there is like a whole like system behind it where certain fighters receive the push, certain fighters who play the game like are more likely to get on that early pay-per-view a little bit earlier, get a main event, a pay-per-view a little bit earlier than other fighters. So I don't know, like it's just a whole mentality within the MMA.
No, I agree. It's
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's see. I think I think circling it back to Jake Paul, obviously Dana White and the whole thing has passed now and it is what it is, but talking about fighter pay, do you guys see will Jake, I think down the future, this is what I want to ask, future thing. Will you see a world where Jake Paul, if not influences it, is the reason why fighter pay goes up, and if so, what's his legacy in combat sports as a result?
I want to talk about Jake Paul's legacy. He's had 4 fights, 5 fights. I don't want to count that. I think Jake Paul is being good for the marketing side of the game. I think he's taught a lot of people a lesson about how this whole meritocratic mentality is just like a bunch of BS. Like that stuff's made up. It's really an image. Like any entertainment sport, it's all about entertainment. If you can entertain and you can draw, you will be successful. Period. Yeah. I think that the fact that Floyd Mayweather boxed Logan Paul should show it has nothing to do with merit. It's all about how much you can draw. I think the impact on the UFC will be negligible. I think first of all, I think MMA, Jake Paul will fight in MMA. I don't think it's going to be for the UFC. It could be, but I don't think so. And I think Jake Paul. The only thing that is going to motivate the UFC to improve status, fighter pay, is one of two things: legislation and regulation, which doesn't look like it's coming anytime soon. Like if you have a former president in your, I'm not saying back pocket, but on your team, it's going to be tough to get enough legislators to pass a bill that's going to force you to pay people better. And number two, fan pressure, which I honestly feel
it's not happening.
It's not going to happen. There's too many people who are on the side of the UFC, and you know, like how sometimes we feel like the NFL really doesn't care about what fans say, like they just do it anyway. Like I really think the UFC kind of is taking that model. They're not like the NBA, who's like doing like, clearly doing like target population testing and seeing like how certain
Yeah. Well, I will say when I was bringing up the NBA, what I was trying to explain is the UFC sees the NBA as like what happens when an organization lets the inmates run the asylum. You know what I'm saying? And they want to avoid that.
I hear you, but that's also like a ridiculous argument because some would argue
It's
that the NBA is more popular, at least for everybody, globally, than every single sport that there is. Like,
yeah.
apart from maybe soccer, which is very big, like very, very big on player empowerment right now too. So I don't know, like if you want to do it like a data thing, like soccer.
You might be right about that, but actually on Christmas Day, when the NFL put out 2 games, they actually had more viewers than the NBA's Christmas games. And I don't know about the NFL as a whole, but like certain NFL teams have really big global followings.
But I will say, I don't. Was that the domestic numbers or was that the international numbers?
They were international numbers.
Oof. You know,
like the Dallas Cowboys when they played on Christmas Day, I think like 20 million people watched it, as opposed to like the NBA games, 12 million people watched it, and this was like globally.
I think, and I mean, this is turning.
So I don't know.
This is again.
I don't know what the story behind that is. But like for some reason, the NFL is actually pretty globally.
But I think part of it is also like the NBA's audience aren't TV watchers. Like the NBA's audience tends to be the people who go out to the game for a good time, get the merch. You know what I'm saying? Where the NFL audience is watch the games. They watch the game.
Well, first of all, it also has to do with the scarcity principle. Like in terms of there's so few NFL games, like you need to like each one is all the more like valuable.
Yeah.
That's NBA, which has hundreds of games.
Where people are very like I know like I've been covering I was covering basketball before I became a fighter, right? A lot of people like don't realize that I was a basketball journalist. Like even me as a journalist,
maybe that doesn't really. That doesn't really like apply to popularity, or it doesn't really compare to popularity. I guess the viewers on each day, but you might have a point.
But what I'm trying to say, is like because a lot of times the numbers you really need to see is how well the NBA does in the playoffs, right? Like the Raptors numbers were insane. Like I know because like I think the numbers got to like half the country was watching, which was like crazy. You know what I'm saying? But we're getting like completely like this is nothing to do with MMA.
Completely off the point. Anyway, Jake Paul, good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yes, sir.
I really wanted to talk about quickly about Francis Ngannou and Ciryl Gane, and then I gotta go, guys. Because
because it's getting late for you, man.
That fight is going on next week. Really exciting. I've been going back
next week.
No, sorry, 2 weeks from now. See, that's how excited I am. 2 weeks from now. I've been going back and forth on who I think is gonna win. I think the push for Ciryl Gane has been UFC assisted, honestly. Not that I have a problem with Gane at all. Like I actually think he's like probably the most skilled UFC fighter
he might be able to do it. He might be able to pull it off.
Ever seen. Like, but I think first of all, Ngannou, we saw his wrestling improve significantly, like between his first Stipe fight and his latest Stipe fight. I think it's unfair to like characterize him as just like a banger, because even though he can definitely bang, he definitely wants to bang, bro. Pause. I also think like his ring IQ, the fight IQ has actually improved a lot as well. Like he's a little bit more hesitant, a little bit more patient. His kicking game is underrated. They're not like, it's not like Ernesto who's like just like slamming into people. Yeah. But at the same time, like, I don't want to get kicked by Francis again. I'll tell you that. And it's enough to like set up the punches, which is ironic because it's usually the other way around. And I don't know, man. It's one thing they keep showing that sparring footage, and I watched it, and I was like, okay, Gane might have the edge here, but
to Gane's credit, I'm glad Gane has not gone into the hoopla and gone like, oh yeah, no, I used to kick his ass all the time in practice. He's been as classy as he can be. This isn't a Gane versus Ngannou thing. This is Fernand Lopez. This has been a Fernand Lopez versus Francis Ngannou, a UFC versus Francis Ngannou thing from the jump.
Fernand Lopez has even gone against Ngannou like that, like in the build up to this fight.
Yes. Yeah. This has been a thing brewing for years. From people who have, because obviously the Las Vegas camp, and stuff like that. People have told me, we've heard from off the record stuff. Ngannou and Lopez are like, not only are they non-speaking terms, they're like, it's almost an on-site thing. They do not like each other. It is that serious. It's gone ugly. And I think
the part I don't understand for me is that, once again, we saw Ngannou go to, I think it was Extreme Couture, right? Or is it Extreme Couture? Right?
No, it was Extreme Couture.
Yeah. And his games look better, man. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, his game has looked much better since he's not been training with Fernand Lopez. And maybe that doesn't explain how good Ciryl Gane is, because his game looks as complete as Francis's, if not more. But, like, I don't know, it must be a coach thing, but I don't know how you can begrudge a fighter, or if they feel like they've gotten all they can from you, like going to another camp and learning. Like, we've seen Kamaru Usman just did it. He was training at, why am I forgetting the name?
He was Sanford MMA.
Training with Gilbert Burns, and then he went to
Elevation with Whitman.
Exactly. Like, and nobody batted an eyelid. He said, like, I'm thankful for those guys, and what they did to, like, help build my career. I came in as, like, a wrestler with no striking at all. Developed a good relationship with Henry Hooft, and, felt like I'd learned all I can, and then moved over to Trevor Whitman to learn a more complete game. And his striking has looked better. Sorry, Henry, but it has looked better in his last two fights. So I really don't know why there's such, like, animosity between, like,
you never know. There could you never know what could happen behind the scenes, like, that caused it. Like, part of it is like, Henry Hooft has had guys probably come and go. He's had more experience with that, like, hey, guy at the top has decided to leave the camp kind of thing. Whereas, like, Fernand Lopez, I think Francis Ngannou was probably his first, like, UFC guy, or first, like, notable guy that I can remember who left the camp, and these things happen. Like, you'd be surprised how many coaches get real mad. Like, this is, like, Henry Hooft is more, in my opinion, more of the exception than the rule in terms of this, so
yeah. Look at Uriah Faber, which is totally against how I would think Uriah Faber would act, but look how he felt about TJ Dillashaw switching times.
I think part of that was like the circumstances of which, how he was told, and the place of, like, there's definitely, like, I'm not saying Francis is an angel in all of this, but there are things Fernand Lopez has done, like, for example, leak the sparring footage without permission, which has been absolutely, bad form, in my opinion. So, yeah, like, I think, to Ciryl Gane's credit, like, I will say, like, I do think Ciryl Gane has a huge chance. I actually think Ciryl Gane, like, I pick him as of right now. I pick him to get the W. But I think, to Ciryl Gane's credit, he's been as classy as he could be with this entire situation. Right.
One thing I would say, though, I probably made this point already. You can jump in, Jeremy, but it's one thing to do it in sparring. It's another thing in a fight situation. And we saw what Francis Ngannou does to world-class kickboxers when he fought Rosenstrike, and even Overeem to a certain degree. Like, he doesn't care about all that, like, pretty setup stuff. He is going to knock your lights out, like, as soon as he can. Like, I've been watching that Rosenstrike fight, like, on a loop, because it's just ugly. Like, the way he just, like, literally, I saw a tweet that was like, Francis Ngannou hit that N-word like he owed him money. Like, basically, like,
Francis Ngannou, I want you too.
No. I don't
want no parts.
I don't
want no parts.
That's not a sanctioned fight. That's gonna be a murder, Jeremy.
That would be, yeah.
You know what was funny about that Rosenstruck fight is that like he knew Rosenstruck was not gonna try to take him down, so he was like, "Fuck it."
Swinging to like the bleachers. It looked like he was like trying to like as you said, trying to throw like a baseball pitch or something. Like the way he like swung and hit that guy, man. Yo, that was one of the craziest things I've ever seen.
All of a sudden, you just see Rosenstruck just slumped into the.
And he sets it up. He literally just like swung his arms like a. Literally like a gorilla. Without being racist, we can't be racist. We're black, but like literally like a gorilla, like just like hunting down their prey. Like,
man, I always say the thing that always reminds me of is that episode of Futurama where Fry thought he was a robot, so he was swinging his arms like this.
Scary, but that was my point. Is that even though Gane has all this pretty tippy tappy stuff, great footwork, great movement, man. If Ngannou is just like what. Forget all of that. Like I'm gonna come like right at you, and I'm gonna take your lights out. Which easier said than done. I get it because Gane is elusive, but like man, like
and has a full game. He can grapple. If
you mess up on just one,
I know
one combo, and Ngannou can counter you, like not even counter you, because counter like implies some kind of like tactic. Like just land on you like mid combo, like you're not finishing your combo. Like you're either like curling away or you're going straight to sleep. You know what I mean?
Oh no, I agree. Like it's an intriguing fight.
Yeah, Jeremy, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely intriguing fight. At present moment, I got to give it to Ciryl Gane as well, by decision. But very interesting that you bring up that Rosenstruck fight because I actually forgot about that. I was just so impressed by the improvement with Stipe against Stipe Miocic. And that fight I was very back and forth, so I didn't expect that. But yeah, that Rosenstruck fight is definitely a good fight to bring up. But I just think that Ciryl Gane is
what? Ask me next.
He's just a better fighter. I don't know how to make it technically sounding.
I'm pretty more skilled.
More skilled than Rosenstruck, that he can handle that onslaught. I think
I will say
I think that Ngannou. Real quick, I just think Ngannou would be too hesitant to try what he did with Rosenstruck. Maybe he might try it in like the second round or maybe the third round, but I don't think it would work still.
One thing I will say is one of the bad habits Ciryl Gane does have is in the face of pressure, he does tend to do a lot of ducking, right, at his hip.
What happened to Curtis Blades? Look what happened to Overeem. I think like people are really sleeping on Ngannou's like fight IQ. Like if he notices you doing even the Rosenstruck one, which he wasn't ducking, it was only like 40 seconds or something like that. But like he saw Rosenstruck kind of get a little bit lazy with his kicks. So the next time that kick came in, he's just dashing forward. I don't know. I feel like people are like sleeping a little bit on like Ngannou's like, as I said, fight IQ and his ability to like notice what the other person is doing and then just land bombs. You know what I mean? So yeah, I agree. Like I do think Gane is the most skilled, not just of this current heavyweight, but of all time. I really do think he's the most like on the feet, the most skilled fighter that we've ever seen in heavyweight. But man, it doesn't matter. Like you know this better than anyone, Michael. Like sometimes the most skilled guy isn't the guy who wins, right?
I know. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. Like, but yeah, like, yeah, it's. Ask me next week. I might change my mind. But you guys know, I've been Team Gane.
But it's just gonna be back and forth, like my picks, because I'm back and forth in my mind about this one too. Can we wrap this up though?
But I will say,
let's
wrap it up. But what I will say for sure is that if it goes 5 rounds, Gane's gonna win.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think so. Can you imagine a world where Branson Ngannou outpoints Ciryl Gane to a
Yo,
W?
we're just like, it's a decision. Yo, I can't. No.
All right, man. Threaten the children and take us home.
Wait, who's gonna threaten the children? Okay, listen, everybody. I'll do it for once. Uh, listen, all adults. You better tell your friends to watch this podcast. I need you to like, subscribe, share. You know what? Put up those push notifications that YouTube does. Set a
Ring the
time.
bell.
Set a reminder. Do something. Do anything. Tell somebody you love. Tell somebody you hate. Tell your random neighbor. Tell a random person you see on the street to watch the leg kick. Where else would you get such interesting combinations of conversations like comparing the UFC to NFL and the NBA? Where else would you get an in-depth breakdown of, why LeBron chose to keep signing supermaxes? Where else? Okay, we are the pinnacle, the summit of MMA.
The summit. I love it. I love it.
MMA analysis.
All right. What does that mean? Fuck it, we'll do it live. All right. In this crazy mixed up world where, you're cooped up in your home because of the lockdown. If you're an Ontarian, yes, is the word. Just remember, Ontario, whatever. Just remember, you got 3 things: life, family, and this podcast. Take it easy, everybody.